Okay, so we have already mentioned that the growth rate is the birth rate minus the death rate. Like I said, kind of obvious. The birth rate adds to the population, death rate takes away from the population. We also have two other main factors that will affect the rate at which a population grows. And that, of course, is going to be the immigration and emigration rate. Now, technically, this is pronounced emigration. I'm going to say emigration just so you don't get the two confused. Okay? And so, the other thing you need to know is that with these values, that demographers, yes, that's a job, like to use 1,000 as the reference number. Okay? Whereas in percentages, what's the reference number? 100. So I guess the percentage numbers were always too small, so they decided to go with 1,000 as the ratio or the reference number for these different values. So out of 1,000, how many were born? How many out of 1,000 of that population immigrated? Minus how many died and how many emigrated or moved out. And we could do this right here. Otherwise, this is good. Now notice the good thing about it is that these are all the same denominator. Almost forgot that term for a minute. I don't know about you guys, but adding and subtracting fractions to me is harder than calculus. If you've had calculus, you've had both. You know what I'm talking about. Fortunately, we've got common denominators, so that's not going to be an issue, right? So all you're going to have to worry about is these numbers up here, okay? And that's going to give you what they call the crude growth rate. Once again, I'm not sure why they call it crude. I think it has to do with just not factoring in a lot of other things. If you divide the annual crude or birth growth rate, that is not correct. Whoa. Yeah. Either one of those, sorry. Percentage growth rate into the number 1,000? No. Granted, this was a shot in the dark, or some of you may have heard this before. It's actually used in finance. It's called the rule of 70. And it gives a very, very close approximation. Now, I will say this, that when you talk about these different growth rate factors and stuff like that, since they are not linear relationships all the time, it can deviate from this a little bit. But it's pretty well relied upon, both, like I said, in population growth as well as in finance. Like if you have an investment and you know what the percentage growth of that's going to be profit-wise, you know, how investments work, hopefully, that you can predict how long it takes for that particular amount, in this case population, to double. So that's what the rule says. It says that if you divide the annual percentage growth rate into the number 70, it's going to tell you how many years it takes for that population to double. So it's a nice little way for us to look at for a society and estimate, you know, how long it will take for that to happen, how long it will take for a population to double. I will say in finance you use this because this represents when you have made your investment back. So you can kind of plan things out that way and say, all right, by the time we get here, we will have made back our investment. We can take it back, and everything else is money on top of it. In this case, so if we've got a population growth rate, for example, of 3.5%. No, I don't want to do that. How many years is it going to take for that population to double? Anybody guess earlier tomorrow?
20.
Very good, 20 years. Rule of 70 divided by 3.5. Got to make sure that's a percent. That equals 20. 70 divided by 3.5 equals 20. You should be able to do calculations of that level in your head. Okay, or on paper without a calculator. Because that's what you're going to be required to do. That's what you're going to be required to do on the test, as well as on the environmental exam. No calculators are allowed. So hopefully you can, or will be able to. Any questions how that works? Both how you figure out the actual population growth rate, as well as how you use the rule of 70. Okay? All right, we're going to do some more of these on Wednesday. and we'll talk about it more then.